And welcome to Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres, episode 246. Today we're looking at the three-story photo challenge. We've had several people send in their images for the challenge, and so that's what we're going to be looking at. So yes, if you happen to be watching us here live on YouTube, then leave a comment, let me know you're here, and we can make a start. Yes, so welcome to Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres. If you're looking to improve your understanding of photography, then you're in the right place. Today is episode 246. The three photo story or triptych challenge. Triptych's slightly different, variation on it. So we've had people who sent in actual triptychs and three people who've sent in three photos. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. In the meanwhile, if you happen to be watching live, leave a comment. Let me know where you are. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what the weather's doing. And we can get the chat started. I see we've got a couple of people in already. So let's see, we've got Robert says, howdy all from Texas, second day of summer. And it's hot. Becca joins us from a wet air. Says 30 degrees and blue skies yesterday, windy, rainy and cool today. Yes, it's the weather's definitely taken a turn for the worse here in southwest Scotland. April says, greetings from a hot and rainy Long Island, New York. John says, good day from Ohio, very hot and getting hotter, around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot. Susan joins us from a very strange summer's day in Kakubri. 1 minute we have gorgeous sunshine, and the next we have torrential downpour. We're not as hot as the south of the UK, about 18 degrees C today. Yes, that's about 9 miles down the road from here in Castle Douglas, where it has been a bit of everything, and possibly thunderstorms due in, well, could be any time now, according to the weather app. You're never entirely predictable for Dumfries and Galloway. The landscape is so kind of varied that whatever it says, the weather can be quite different and very localised. Even though Susan is just 9 miles down the road from where I am, it's not uncommon for us to have entirely different weathers. What else do we have? Andy joins us from Hertfordshire. Janet says, hi from a rather warm Mississauga. That's in Canada. 20 degrees C feels more like 29 at 10 a.m. Going up to 35/47 degrees. 35 to 47? Later? Is that it looks like a kind of rushed print there. Is that 35 to 37, I guess? Oh, and Anne joins us from Texas and says hello as well. Excellent. Well, we have people in. We have a podcast. We have pictures. We have lots of... Okay, before we make a start, or... Well, I say before we make a start, we've already started. But what I will do, a quick update on the Smug Points Leaderboard. So currently what I'm doing is I'm combining May and June together. And what we have is out there in front is Robert with 90 smug points, Viji in second place on 85, Anne in third on 80, April on 65 and Meg on 50. Everybody else obviously below 50. So that's kind of where we are with the smug points. And but that will all change today, because everybody who turns up, says hello, leaves a comment, gets 5 smug points. If you entered something into the challenge, you get 10 smug points. And at the end of this podcast, I'll be choosing my top 3, which get a bonus 30, 20 and 10 smug points. Plus, I might give out the odd commended here and there for a bonus 5 smug points as well. So that will change the whole leaderboard considerably. And with one podcast left in the month after this, it's still absolutely everything to play for. Right. Janet says 35 degrees C later feels like 47. Whoa, feels like 47. How does that? Is that just because of the humidity makes it feel so warm? That's all. These are Chennai temperatures. If Viji was watching, she'd feel perfectly comfortable at home in those ones. Right. Yes, humidity. That's right. Okay. So where are we at then? Let's make a little start. So yes, what are we talking about? So 2 podcasts ago, back on episode 244, if you want to go back and take a look, we talked about the notion of the 3 photo story. Sometimes done as a triptych, so 3 photos instead of 1 photo. Practically everything we do with photography tends to revolve around the single image. Does that one image create or sum up or imply a story, and are we communicating what we want to communicate with that single image? Now, the idea of a 3-photo story, and of course it can be multiple photos, but we've decided to limit it to 3 for this particular podcast, is the idea that can we create a bigger story or more of a story if we have 3 images rather than 1? And how might we do that? And so I went in quite in depth in this 2 podcasts ago about how you could play around with this idea of 3 images to create a story. And basically, the 2 different ways about doing it are you can take one subject and photograph it in 3 different ways, whether that's from different angles, different settings, camera settings, different light conditions, places, locations, all that kind of thing. Or you can take 3 different images, 3 different subjects, and photograph them in the same way. And that's a key important part here, is that photographing the 3 different images, 3 different subjects in the same way is what combines them and makes them look like 3 photos that should be part of a set rather than just 3 random images thrown together. Now, interestingly, I've got, what is it? I can't remember exactly. 13, I think. I've had 13 different people send in images, and we're going to look through everybody's images. And I have to say, different people have kind of grabbed this a different way. Some have been absolutely spot on, while others, I would say, didn't necessarily hit the mark. So that's going to be a little bit of interesting fun as we go through. So this idea then, hopefully take a look, leave comments as we go, and hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to inspire each other for future ideas. Whether we see something where we go, oh wow, that's absolutely fantastic, I would love to have a go at doing that myself, or even if we see something where we go, well okay, maybe it didn't quite hit the mark in that, but it encourages me to go, well, how could I do something different? Or does it give me an idea? How might I do that better? Or even on your own photo, with maybe a touch of little kind of comments, you go, right, okay, maybe I could have done this slightly differently as well. I'm not going to be going full-blown critique. Well, I am actually, to be honest, on about 2 photos. But we'll come to that as the podcast goes on. So stick around. Okay, just little comments now from April there on Janet's post. So where are we going to start? I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Marilyn, because Marilyn has basically done a triptych in the style of what we were... Okay, there's a good sort of start, really. So if we go to here, what Marilyn says is, the Durango and Silverton steam train runs through the San Juan Mountains in southwest Colorado. We scouted and found a spot that brought the train through a cut in the mountain. Where we stood, however, was almost on the ledge of a cliff, but I wanted to capture a series showing the train passing through the cut. All the photos were taken from the same place we were standing, just using a zoom lens. And so this then is a kind of classic triptych kind of look to a photo. So we've got the train and it's coming through a cut in the mountain, cut in the pass here. So shot 1, it's just kind of coming into the edge of this. In fact, the tree practically looks like the steam coming out of it. Shot 2, it's come through, it's, you know, right on the edge of it, the front of it's just coming through that bit. And shot 3, it's now past and it's close up. So we've got, it's sequential. Each image is showing the train in a slightly different spot, and together what we get is we get this sequence, and we realise that the train isn't just parked in that first one or the second or the third, but it is in fact moving. So the 3 photos has allowed us a sense of movement through time in the way that a single image would struggle to do. If you wanted to create that sense of movement with a single image, you might have to have, say, a bit of motion blur or something else going on, or some kind of sense of anticipation, whereas the 3 photos together give us that sense. And then because they are all taken from exactly the same angle, and then they are all cropped in exactly the same way, it creates this complete sequence where all the pictures are clearly, you know, they are part of a larger story. And on top of that, the triptych side of this is they've all been placed into one single image. Okay, and because they're all placed into one single image, although it is 3 photos, they all have the same color scheme, they all have the same color grading or you know, tonal contrast and everything else, so it works as a whole. So in that sense, that is a good solid triptych kind of photo, and so I thought it was maybe a nice one to open up with. So nice one there, Marilyn. Good start to the podcast with that. April says, good catch. Becca says, cool train. Looks like a very scenic route. And Susan says, great idea, Marilyn. Excellent. Okay, let's move on then. So next up, we're going to go to Meg. And Meg hasn't done a triptych. Meg has sent in 3 separate photos. And basically, Meg was out in the garden yesterday and said, hi Dad, took 3 photos of different flowers on Saturday morning outside in the back garden. And what Meg did was she's taken 3 photos, she's chosen 3 different flowers, but she's taken them all from exactly the same angle. So I've got this beautiful little purple flower in the first one. My knowledge of what flowers are called is very limited, so if somebody else wants to leave a comment and say, oh, that is a insert flower, then you can. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly what flowers they are, but this is flower number 1. This is flower number 2, bright pink, and flower number 3, beautifully red with little yellow stamens and what have you in it as well. And so what Meg has done here then is we've got the 3 photos, and they are 3 different flowers, but they're all taken from the same angle and the same distance, and then that's what unites them. And if you wanted, if you decided to take the time, you could stick them into a single panel, and then you've got, and it's not this kind of triptych, this kind of, or not triptych, but 3 photo set isn't so much about the idea of a sequence. It's not like you're going bud, full bloom, decay. It's about 3 different flowers, but what unites them is the fact they're all taken from exactly the same angle. The flower in each of them is filling roughly about the same amount of frame. The crop is identical, the lighting is the same, and so that then gives us our collection. Okay, what have we got here? Rebecca says geranium pretense. Yeah, April says, very pretty, Meg. I notice Scotland and New York are very much alike with the flowers timeline. Susan says, lovely images, Meg. Would look great together too. Yeah, and that's it. That's it. It is that idea. I mean, here on the screen, which Meg's just joined us and says hello, everyone. And it is that idea of here on the screen, we're only able to essentially look at them one at a time if they've not been put into a triptych. But we can see at least the idea that they would work together if you had them framed or hung in exactly the same way on a wall. So that gives us that sense then of 2 different ways that you can go about this 3 photo story chat. So Marilyn got the triptych where you've got the same subject 3 different times placed onto the same image, and then Meg has got 3 different subjects photographed in the same way. So that gives you that sense of the 2 different ways of going about doing the 3 photo story. Next up, we're going to go to Janet. So, yes, now Janet took 3 photos. So Janet says, I actually found this one challenging to do while on vacation, as some of my better options are buried among the 4,900 trip photos. So yes, the old problem of we go out with a camera, especially if we go away somewhere, take 5,000 photos, and then that's a lot of curating, it's a lot of going through to pick out the ones you want. I ended up choosing the Acadian flags because those images were easiest to spot while I connected the camera to the iPad. These are just very quick iPad edits, as I've been doing 12-hour work shifts 4 days this week after getting home late on Sunday. These Acadian flags are painted onto buildings, chairs, lobster pots, etc. all over the place in parts of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick in eastern Canada. So now let's show you the 3. So this one, what we've got is 3 huts. So we've got a blue hut, white hut, red hut, but on the blue hut there's also a yellow star. Okay, now if we flick to the next one, we've got 3 chairs, and the 3 chairs are likewise blue with the yellow star, then white, then red, and then finally we've got, looks like some kind of lighthouse, I think, which again has the blue with the yellow star, the white and the red painted onto the whole building. So what's uniting these 3 is that they're all taken in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, eastern seaboard of Canada, and they're all about the Acadian flag, the blue, white and red with the yellow star. So, fun idea. What I would say here though, Janet, is your first 2 photos have got the same kind of crop. Your third photo isn't. It's completely different. It's a different. Whereas the other ones kind of go sequentially. This one is then up and it's cropped and it's not center aligned. So, in essence, although the subject, which is the flag, the color system, unites them, they all have a slightly different, or one of them has a different kind of crop. And so as such, I don't think it works quite so well as if you were putting this into a 3-story photo, or you wanted to combine them into a triptych for a competition, whether that's online or for your camera club or anything else. This would kind of limit you. Now, in that case, either you go back and you find a different picture where you can do the same crop, so like this crop and this crop, virtually identical, so you would find a third one where you could have this crop. Or, to be honest, if you go to something like this one, you could practically make a triptych out of it in its own right. And so let me just show you what I mean. Let's just open this with Photoshop. And if we take this, now first of all, if I take a line like this, these bits don't quite line up. It does need just a very slight tilt. So we'll just do that. And then also the white chair has got a slight green kind of hue to it. So I'm just going to go to File, Edit, Image, Adjust, Image, Auto Color. There we go. And that's just, if you just take a look at that, from that to that, we can see that the white chair has moved away from that sort of slight green hue and made it white. Now what we have is this is a nice kind of a picture in its own right. Now, if we were to if I was to, let's go to image canvas size, and let's just make that canvas, I don't know, let's say 20, this is a web image, so I'll just make it 20 pixels wider. So let's make that 650, and I'll make it 20 pixels higher, so let's make that 1377. Click OK, and now we've got a little board around it. And now what I can do is if I just copy that little white strip, just make sure I get that there, copy that, and then paste, drag it over to here, place it in the middle of that, and then paste again, and then place it into that. And actually, if you're talking about a triptych, I would say this works much better than the 3 different photos, because what you have here then is you have that 3 different chairs. The chairs are all identical, they're all taken from the same angle. The background then shows that, because you've got the continuity of like the window behind and the background. And I think something like this actually really feels much more triptych based. As such, I would, so if you were going for a triptych or 3 photo challenge online and some kind of photo competition, I think you would score probably much higher with something like this than the 3 photos that you've got. Much though I like the 3 photos, don't get me wrong, I do like those 3 photos. I mean, there's, when we go back to here, this is a lovely photo in its own right, the 3 different painted sheds tilted. And also, this is a fun one, the idea of the lighthouse as well. There's definitely something in it. But I do think that if you were actually to go for a triptych challenge, which is about, the first rule of any competition is to make sure you've essentially followed the instructions, okay? Rather than trying to squeeze something. So I mean, I'm on Photo Crowd. I can't remember if you are, Janet. I think you might be. I know quite a few of the viewers are. And of course, every single day there's several photo challenges to put in with. And sometimes I can be up there in the top 10, and sometimes the very same photo can be practically in the bottom 10, right? Or certainly the bottom 10%. But very often when that happens, it's because I've shoehorned in the image into a particular title when it hasn't truly fitted. If you want to score, get your best score, first thing to do is look at what the challenge parameters are. And when I was talking about the idea of the triptych or the 3-photo story, what I said was if you had 3 different subjects, then you had to photograph them all the same way to make them coherent. And that's the best way to get the... It's not to say that any of the individual photos don't work as a photo, but as they are working as a group. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Where are we? Janet says, where are we? Oh, yeah. April said that it's cool. Becca said a cool idea. Janet said, I agree about the crop. It will probably do better when I've got more time on the editing. Sue says, what a great idea to paint the flag on so many different things. Viji's joined us from India, says good evening friends. Janet said, I tried to shoot the 3 huts as separate images to make a triptych, but didn't work as the blue, white and white were so close together. Yes. I also wasn't sure if the connection, if you don't know the Acadian flag. That's true. Janet says critique is definitely appreciated though. Okay, cool. Right, so let's move on then next to Becca. Now, Becca, I would say, has done something slightly similar to Janet in the fact that... So let's talk you through. Becca says, here are my 3 photos for the triptych challenge. The long gate with the crossbars is first, and then the one with the uprights and the orange twine. So we've got this photo, and this photo. Okay, so what we've got is 3 gates leaning against the wall. Okay. But again, what we have here, if you look at the crop ratio, and you can tell this by, if you're looking at me on the screen here, you can see that this side of the photo is practically coming up in the middle. If I move to the next one, it's now moved side to side. So this one, the crop ratio isn't the same. This one and this one, the crop ratio is pretty much the same. Okay. Similarly, the gates are fairly similar. They're similar, you know, it's got that kind of little uprights with the bits going across. This one is the outlier. Yes, it's a wooden gate against a wall, but it's a different kind of gate. It's also, it's wider. It's a wider crop than the other photos. And these 2 are sort of straight on, and this one, it's at an angle. Okay. So if we come back then to that notion of the 3-photo story or the triptych idea, is they are united by the fact that they are 3 wooden gates. But where it falls down is the fact that the photos themselves, the way you've cropped the subjects, you've got 2 which are virtually identical, and when one that doesn't work. A bit like Janet's, she had the slightly more cinematic crop for the chairs and for the huts, but then the lighthouse didn't quite fit in with that. And I think you've kind of got the same problem here, Becca. I like your idea. I like the fact you're going for it. I like the fact that you hunted this out. All these are good things. Don't be discouraged by that. But it's just a case of if we're trying to kind of get strictly by the criteria for this, then it's about understanding. And this is no bad thing. I suppose I kind of have to justify this. I always feel like a bit of a, I don't know, you go to all this effort for making photos, and this is for everybody all the time. You put the photos in, and then I come back and say, didn't work here and there. I feel like the killjoy. But at the same time, the purpose of these podcasts is to help you improve your photography and improve your understanding of photography. Name's in the title. Now, I can't help you improve your understanding of photography if I just turn around and say everything's great all the time. What I do appreciate is, I really appreciate the effort you're putting into it, and that's good. That's good. That's plus points. And it's to understand here that when I give this kind of feedback, say this bit, you know, two work, the third one doesn't, It's so that you can take that understanding and apply it in the future, part of the learning process. So hope that works. In fact, actually what's happened, Becca said, I did have another one that was straight on, but I didn't like it as much and there was too much distraction in the background. It's, well, yeah, I mean, it's a good point and it's a tricky thing. It's, we have to, it is one of those things that there's the difference between grabbing what we can and seeing if, well, I'll put the best that I can out of what I've got, and I don't like that photo, and I prefer this one, and I'll put it in. And that sometimes when you're doing a collection of photos, sometimes you might even have to get rid of the one photo that you like the most because it doesn't work with the set. It's a different mindset to the individual photo. With the individual photo, you are looking for the one that you like the best, one you're happiest with, that fits within the criteria. When you're doing a curated set of photos, it's about the set. Yes, there's the individual photos, but there is also, you have to have a mindset of the set. And maybe that's really, I suppose I was implying that a lot, but maybe I should have been clearer about that idea, because I think it's a really important part of whether it's 3 photos or 2 photos or 200 photos, that is about how they look together as a group. That overrules, that's the word. How they look as a group overrules how any one individual photo stands out. Because actually, if you've got a set and it's supposed to look good as a set, and then you've got one that stands out, maybe because it's a lot better than the others, it stops the whole set from working. So there's curating the images becomes a really important part of any kind of set of images where there's more than one. If you've got 2 images, you've got to have the relationship between just the 2. As I said, likewise, if you've got 100, same idea. Okay, Susan says it's always helpful to have an independent critique. How else will we improve? Becca says all good points. Thank you, Kim. Okay. Owen, I seem to remember, says good day. Oh, glad you could make it, Owen. Excellent. Glad you could make it along. Right. So next up, then we're going to go to Phyllis. Now, Phyllis doesn't usually post in here. I don't know whether she'll be along today. I've just seen on Facebook today that it's her birthday. So happy birthday, Phyllis, if you happen to be watching this later. So this one was sent in by Phyllis. And basically, Phyllis I've known for many years online. We used to both belong to a photography group some 15, 16, 17 years ago or something like that, where I learned a huge amount of photography. And Phyllis was brilliant for helping me develop my photography. She was always very, very good at critique. I don't think she comes on to the podcast very often, but she was watching people put images in for the triptych, and I think she saw April's one as well, and suddenly thought she added a similar image that she wanted to play around with. And playing around with this flower, I think is it a lily? Not sure. Anyway, but she essentially, this is an older one. So Phyllis said, I saw this and cannot really find the ones I really like, but I thought I would send you this. Usually they told a story, whereas this is just eye candy stuff. It was taken very long ago with a tiny camera, but it was still a fun image, and it basically felt like something worth putting in. So Phyllis submitted this one. She may well watch this back later. I was giving her instructions on how to find the podcasts earlier in the week. So what she's done is she's taken the photo and then been playing. This is quite a few years ago, so I don't know what program. She may well have been using Photoshop or earlier versions, but she's been really pushing the colours, pushing the contrast, moving it away from that idea of just the obvious kind of flower, so that each of these almost have a kind of metallic quality to them. So it's an interesting idea. Different to Meg's 3 flowers, which are 3 different flowers. What Phyllis has done is she's taken the one flower and then processed it in 3 different ways. Susan says that's a superb image, Phyllis. Now, similarly then, so to move on from Phyllis, well, I thought the next obvious one to go to was April, because April, completely independently, has taken, it's kind of come in with a not dissimilar approach, though with a very different kind of subject. And so what April has done, April says, this is my entry for the Triptych contest. I tried a lot of ideas, but this fits perfectly in the collage application I use. it is a still life of a white cherry. I decided to use some Photoshop techniques and have the cherry start dark and become more colourful at the end. The middle one is the natural colour. Okay, so oddly enough, I hadn't heard of white cherries. I get to this age and I haven't. I sort of strange lack in my life. But I tend to think of cherries as being, well, cherry red really. So we've got this sort of yellowy pink thing, and to the left we've got it black and white, and to the right, multicoloured. But in the style of a triptych, they're side by side. They've all been taken from the same angle under the same light. Well, it is the same photo. Like Phyllis's, it's the same photo, except that it's been processed in 3 different ways. So interestingly, April put this into our Facebook group, and then Viji asked April how it was done. April very kindly then responded to Viji and said, so I put a white cardboard background on my kitchen table with a white reflective glass sheet in front of it. I then put my cherry on that. I then held a flashlight over the cherry like a spotlight and used my other hand to click some pictures. I then went into Photoshop Elements and did one in black and white, one in the real colour, and one with the solar flare technique. I then had them all made up 3x4 and placed them in my collage setup on Photoshop and tried to line them up as best as possible. And so yeah, that's a fun kind of way of playing with the triptych. So similar to Phyllis, and I think, like I say, I think when Phyllis saw April put this one in, this is what kind of inspired Phyllis to put hers in. April's taken the photo, she's taken the single photo, and then she's played around with it in Photoshop. So we've got the black and white version, the natural version, and an enhanced version using a solar flare Photoshop technique. So fun kind of idea, and again you can imagine it's sort of framed sitting somewhere. What else have we got? Susan says that's a superb image. Oh yes, superb image. Phyllis, sorry, where are we? Oh yes, a very, very clever treatment. April, and April always said happy birthday to Phyllis, as has Viji. April says thank you, Susan, and Viji says loving this, April. Okay, cool, right. So where have we got to? And oh yes, finally then I'll go for this section. Well, for the first half, it's not completely final, but sticking with this idea of colourful triptychs, we now go pretty much psychedelic here with Nadia. So Nadia has she's created 3 different images where what we have is a glass with water in it sitting on a reflective surface with a seriously brightly coloured psychedelic picture in the background. And then in terms of balance, while each of these is got a different pattern with a different colour scheme, the glass on the left and the glass on the right are the same glass, look like the same glass, same angle, same amount of water in it, with then set up from exactly the same angle. The one in the middle is either a different glass or it's taken a slightly different angle, so it's distorted slightly. It's got a very similar shape but slightly shorter stem. So, but either way, what Nadia has done is balanced it out. And basically Nadia says what she did here, she said the pattern is an image on the iPad, and the glass itself is on black perspex to reflect the pattern of the iPad. So if you're wanting to have a go at this yourself, so Nadia is using black perspex flat on the ground, and then she's placed her iPad behind it, okay, with a pattern on, and then she's zoomed in enough so that you can't see the outside of the iPad. This means that then placing the glass on the black perspex means that you get the reflection of both the glass and the pattern behind, and then you also get the pattern distorting as it goes through the glass and as it goes through the water in the glass. So fun technique, you can try at home, play around with that one. Where are we? April says very creative and neat idea, Nadia. John says I love this one a lot, Nadia. Viji says wow, Nadia. Susan says brilliant, Nadia. Excellent. So that brings us roughly about halfway through these images, and as you can see, there's a lot of different ideas here from, you know, three different objects photographed the same way, same object photographed three different ways. Some of these we're getting single images or three separate images. Some of them are being combined into a triptych, and then when they're combined into a triptych, you're looking at a flow. Either we're going through a sequence from black and white to colour, or through different colours, or balance so that the two outer ones take a shape and the one in the middle has a slightly different shape, but they're all still connected. So lots of ideas here. I hope you're feeling inspired. So just a quick little reminder here that if you happen to find these podcasts useful, interesting, entertaining even, then buymeacoffee.com/Kim Ayres is one of the ways you can support these podcasts. Don't forget also we have our Facebook group, Facebook /groups/UPwKA, and likewise our Flickr. Our Flickr group as well, same kind of address, the groups /UPwKA. So if you want to send your images for critique, or for any of the submissions, for any of the challenges we do, then you can either place them in either of the groups, or you can email me to kim@kimayres.co.uk and let me know about your picture. If it's for a challenge, let me know with a little bit of story behind it. If it's for critique, then let me know what your sticking points are and what you were trying to achieve with it as well. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. Meanwhile, of course, don't forget, subscribe if you haven't done so, and click the like button. If you haven't done so already, then it always helps the algorithms on YouTube if a few people can click the like button on this video, assuming of course you like it. Don't feel forced or guilted into it, but if you want to help out, then you can. Okay, cool. Right, so what are we going to do next? Okay, let's move on then to yes. Andy has sent me this one, and I have to say I absolutely adore this one. You have to stop and think for a moment about what it is you're looking at. And then Andy says, I made this triptych a few years back at the outset of starting a project on fursuiters. And so I did go away and look this up as well, because there's a whole subculture I knew nothing about. He says, the triptych seemed like a good solution to explore the relationship of the person to their furry alter ego. This is Lou and Felix. So for those unaware, there is an entire subcommunity of fursuiters, people who basically dress up and have alter ego personas of furry creatures, fantasy creatures, a lot of them. And so we have Lou. I'm assuming Lou is the person this is Lou, and then Felix, and I'm assuming this is Felix. And what we have here is the perfect notion of the triptych. So triptych, as in like the three photos are all placed onto the same image, so we can see all three simultaneously. They're progressional, so it reads from left to right, goes through a time sequence. They are all taken from exactly the same angle, under exactly the same lighting conditions, with exactly the same crop. And then sequence 1, we've got Lou holding Felix's head. Sequence 2, Lou is mostly dressed in the fursuit with the head still sitting in the lap, so these two are connected here. And image 3, now fully suited up. Okay, and it's a lovely sequence, so that 1 and 2 have got the head. Felix's head is in the same place. 2 and 3, the fursuit is on as well. So we've got multiple layers where this works as a triptych, as a sequence, as a 3-photo story, and revealing a lot more as well of this notion, as Andy says. You know, so working at this point was working on a project of fursuiters. How do you get across that idea of a fursuiter in one go? Now, if you were to do a single photo, you might end up going for the middle image, but you're still not completely sure. Whereas the 3 photos together give you this real sense of, here is a person, they have their outfit, they have that persona, and this is them moving into and becoming that persona. So fantastic shot there, Andy. Love this. Thank you. What have we got here? So April says, great idea, like the colours on the outfit. Susan says, what an interesting concept, Andy, and I like the way you've done the sequence. Andy says, thanks, Susan. So, great shot there, excellent. Now, next up is Kate. Now, Kate Anderson is a local artist, I know, and she came on a couple of the workshops that I was doing at the Crannog down here at the bottom of Castle Douglas. In fact, Susan was along last week for the final one that I did as well. But the two workshops ago, I was doing a light and shadow workshop. And what Kate did was she took photos of Meg's shadow. So this is Meg, who we all know and love. And we've got Meg's dress, Meg's legs, and Meg's shadow. So she took this photo of Meg's shadow, and then she took this where Meg's starting to crouch down. We end up different angle, different shot, and then finally where Meg's actually bending over, looking at something here. And Kate says, Meg and her shadow triptych. I was intrigued at the time as one shadow looks like a baby elephant. And for me, made me think of Ganesh, a lucky sign. So yes, quite a kind of elephant style shadow there created by Meg bending over and presumably photographing something on the ground in front of her. So for this one for Kate then, so when she saw the fact that there'd been a triptych challenge or a 3-photo story challenge, she immediately realised that she had these photos sitting from the previous workshop of Meg's shadow. So fun one there, Kate. Thanks very much for sending that in, and for the rest of you there, you will get a quick little insight of Meg's shoes. Right. Oh, April said, does look a bit like an elephant. Yes. Okay, next up then, we're going to go to Susan. And Susan sent in this one. She said, attached is my submission for the Triptych challenge. This image uses 3 little vases, the tallest of which is 7 centimetres in height. What first attracted me to them was the texture on the top half of each little vase. I now have them in black and grey also. I'm totally obsessed with them and use them a lot in my still life photography. I thought they looked kind of familiar. I know you sent in images using these vases before. I have used them here to tell a fairly simple little continuity story. First 1, then 2, then 3, in a fairly minimalistic style against a red background. They were placed in my photography box with 1 overhead light and 1 side light. Then, as she goes on to say, I ventured into YouTube to get help in making a single triptych image and finally settled on giving each image a drop shadow to hopefully helping it make them stand out against the against each other. I originally put them on a white background, but that looked a bit so stark, so eventually decided on a grey background. Looking forward to seeing lots of triptych submissions next Sunday. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So we have 1 vase, 2 vases, 3 vases, all taken from the same angle, all taken under the same conditions, all taken with the same crop. And then the way Susan has arranged it is to create a fractionally sort of little drop shadow here. You notice this effect, which makes it feel like they've been stacked on top of each other. We can see the little sort of drop shadow coming in here. Now she's carefully put them this way round so that the drop shadow doesn't go over the top of the image but sits underneath each one. So it's got a sort of slightly 3D sense if we've got 3 pictures overlaying each other. What did we get? Oh, April says, love it, Susan. Viji says, liking it a lot of Susan, bright and colourful. April says, I like how you've overlapped it. And John says, I like the simplicity of the vases. Well done. Okay, so interestingly then, so what Susan has done is create a triptych by creating 3 images and overlaying them. Now, as a personal thing, I mean, I like it. I can see what you're doing and like it. I think I personally, though, would have preferred to see the 3 full images separately for the triptych. And the reason for this is if we go back to one of the things I've talked before about, which is essentially real estate available to you on a screen. Generally, I mean, whilst for the most triptychs we've been putting little borders on, the borders have been there to help differentiate one photo from the other. But you also know that by and large, apart from under these circumstances, I generally tend to say avoid borders because we've got few enough pixels on the screen to begin with, so we can't see the whole image or we're seeing less of the image if we then put a border on. Now, the way you've arranged this, I can understand you kind of going for it as an aesthetic picture in its own right, but I feel it's an awful lot of wasted space. There's all the space in the top corner, all the space in the bottom corner, which can't be used. And also, your idea of, so where we can see, you know, if we say this picture over here on the right is essentially your core picture. So this is what they all look like. You've got the vases sitting down in the bottom left corner with the red going over to the above and to the right. Now these other ones, we're implying it, but we can't necessarily see it because the pictures are overlapping. So you've essentially cropped off bits of the pictures. It's a kind of a tricky one. I think you can argue it both ways. So I'm just, if you're happier with this, that's okay, Susan. You don't have to take my, I'm just kind of pushing this as a suggestion. I think for my taste, I would have been more likely to just have them as the separate images, and then you could go through the sequence of 1, 2, 3. Now you could then have a long cinematic image where they go in sequence, or you could have them, you could even crop a bit off the top potentially and then have them 1, 2, 3 underneath. I think that would work as well, but that different ways of playing around with it. But if you're coming back to this notion though of the triptych as in how does it look in its own right as a picture, rather than thinking of it as 3 photos, think of it as 1 photo with 3 elements in it. Then I suppose having that red diagonal moving through the grey gives you a certain aesthetic and look and composition to it. So it can be argued either way, I think. But I thought it worth kind of bringing up the idea of alternative ways of looking at it. In terms of, I just don't know with a competition how that would work. I think for some people they would really like it and you might get marked more, but I can also see some going, but you're missing half the picture and potentially getting marked down. So it's just it's a very slight gamble with it really, because I think with something like this you're going to appeal more strongly to some people and less strongly to others. So in a way it sort of is going to create a slightly more extreme reaction, which generally speaking is no bad thing unless you're in a crowd vote competition setting where everything tends to bunch more towards the middle than the outliers. Okay, lots of different kind of, I've got a whole pile of thoughts running through my head shooting in here. We don't really have time for all that just now. But anyway, interesting. But yes, thank you, Susan, for kind of putting that one in. It kind of makes us think. It's about how you arrange the elements on the page as well. April says, I like how you overlap that. Viji says, brings out the 3-dimensional feel to the shadows. Susan says, I absolutely agree about the dead grey space. I tried lots of arrangements, but this one just seemed to feel a bit different. Well, that's fine, no problem. And April says, honestly, I can see this in an art gallery. There you go. Okay, I will say actually against that grey, that red really does stand out. I can see exactly what you mean about the idea against white. It just wouldn't. The white, I think, would kill it, would just flatten it, whereas the grey does allow the reds to really glow that little bit more, I think. Right. Okay, well, thank you for sending that one in. Now, next up, we're going to Robert, and here's an interesting one. Now, Robert's the next one who gets a slightly bigger critique. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you. Let's show you Robert's first of all. So Robert says, here's my triptych challenge photos. Now, some of you may remember the skateboarder who lost his skateboard. A single image, put in a cinematic image, which I really liked. I said was one of my favourite images. So these are others from the sequence. So the sequence that Robert has sent in is this one, and then this one. Okay. Now, Robert says, here are my triptych photo challenge. I decided to send you all 14 shots and 2 context photos. So actually, Robert sent me a whole pile of other photos from the sequence and a couple of context photos. So this is a skateboarder who loses his board and it goes shooting off towards people taking photos of themselves against the wall. the context photos show what would be going on off camera. So off camera then, over to one side, here you've got this big frieze on the walls, you've got people taking photos against it. This was what was happening off camera. And then we go back, we've got the skateboarder coming up, jumping up this ramp. He comes off the skateboard shoots off, he suddenly realises he's heading towards the people and he's sort of moving towards it. Now, of the pictures, Robert has taken 3 of these, made them square crop, and he's decided that this is the sequence. So pictures 7, 8 and 11 of the 14 photos. The triptych shows the story of the skateboarder's shock, horror and panic at almost hurting someone. Thankfully, no one was injured. Now, understand, taking your story, seeing what you've done. But given the fact that you sent me the other photos, I think there's a much, much stronger sequence to be had. So what I'm going to do here, if I go to Robert's pictures, and I'll take you through the actual sequence that he's got. So this is photo 1, where you can see the lad just starting to hit the ramp. Photo 2, we've got starting to get mid-air. Photo 3, he's starting to come off the board. Photo 4, he's landing, the board is starting to shoot off. We can see it coming in. Now it's starting to go off to one side. The next sequence, he is cropped. Then the guy is reaching out to go, oh my goodness, this is going on. Then he's really reaching out and we can see this is going on. I can't remember if it was this one or this one was the original one that he sent in a cinematic version. Then we're just going through this sequence. This is the next one. Grimacing, chasing after the lost skateboard. So we've got this sequence then of 14 images, which are kind of fun in their own right. The question is though, if you're going to create a triptych out of this, which of these images do you use? Now what Robert has decided to do is use this image, and this image. And I don't think these are the strongest images, Robert. This one in particular, I look at and it just looks weird to me, I have to say. It's like you're caught in the middle of a ballet gone wrong or something. His shape doesn't seem to work. It's not as fluid. Whereas that photo, there's a grace, there's a movement to the person. This one, there's a movement and the hair's coming up and it's an interesting one. Even this one where he's kind of slightly squatting down has slightly more interest, but this one just looks odd. This one, likewise, his face is kind of a sort of slight image. This one, you've lost the feet. This one, again, of the ones where the skateboard might be shooting off, but I don't think the shape of the skateboarder is the most interesting. You've got more interesting shapes going on back here. And as such, I'd be far more tempted to go for a different set. If I was to take these images, what I might do is start with that one, okay? So I'll tell you what, I will open that one in Photoshop. Then, okay, let's just close that one of Janet's. Now, come back to here. So I think because what we're trying to do is establish a story. And the key thing here is that unless you know, I mean, you've said in your story about the idea that you've got the people taking photos at the wall. We don't know this from this story. Okay. So without that piece of information, can we get the triptych to work in its own right? So our first establishing shot is the lad on the ramp, skateboard up. And there's a nice kind of shape to this. The skateboard's up, hair's going, there's a sense of movement. He's starting to come off. I think the next shot is probably either this one or this one. Maybe even that one. I think, given the fact that we've established with that one, I think we could maybe do this one or this one. Potentially this one, I think. Here we can see he's landing. There's kind of a nice shape to him. The skateboard is coming off to one side. And then this one. Our third story is this one where he realises the skateboard's run away. So let's go back to this one. I'll open this in Photoshop as well. And then we'll go to this one and I'll open this with Photoshop. Now I might have done that other one that you did, but it's just you've only given me a square crop option on this. Now with each of these three, I think we now have a much stronger story. We've got lad coming up, lad coming off, or skateboard coming away, lad chasing skateboard. Now, because of the way this is done, I think we could again go back to cinematic crop. So if we were to do something like, let's see, something like that. Do we want to, let's just say we were to take that. And then I'll copy that, paste it on here, and then move it up to, I'll tell you what, if I do a, so we're getting roughly about the same kind of place, something, just place that there. And then we'll go on to the third one, select all, crop, paste. Okay, that one we can't go much lower. No, wrong place. There we go. It's meant to paste it onto this one. You need to bring him up a little bit. So we've still got the foot in, something like that, give or take a bit. So what we've got then is, put that back up. That kind of sequence. Okay, now I would play, if I was to do this full on, I would play around with this with a little crop. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to just crop them so they're all the same size. Now what I can do is, because this is anchored to this bottom one, if I go to image canvas size, and I'm going to basically, I need to create this 3 times as long. So that's roughly 4. So if I make that, I'll tell you what, let's just make that 13,000 to begin with. Oops, try that again. I'll crop this back, canvas size. I need to anchor this to the top. I'll just shove a 1 in front of that and then click OK. Now what I can do is I can take this one and just drag it down to here, and I can take this one and I can drag it down to here, and then I can bring this up and drag it to there, and then if I actually, tell you what, if I drag that just right up to the edge of that, and then what I can do is I can go to image canvas size, and we can add on, I'm not sure, we'll say roughly something like about 100 onto each end. So take that to 300, take that to 300, and see what happens. Yeah, there we go. So we've now got a border. Okay, so in essence then, if you look at something like this as your triptych, you've now got skateboarder comes up, skateboarder comes off, skateboarder panics because the skateboard's run away. And I think regardless of what's outside the image, and regardless of the fact that there might be people off to one side that this might run into, we don't need to know this story to understand this sequence. Okay, and that's really the key to this triptych, I think. And I think if you've got something like this as a triptych, I think it then becomes a really powerful triptych. Is, you know, we've got the 3 images, we've got the sequence in time, we've got that sense of story happening with us as it's going through. Whereas I think your square crops, the ones you've chosen where I don't think there's much of a move, with each of these images there is such a sense of movement within it. You know, we've got this lovely kind of shape to him here, we've got another interesting shape here, and then we've got another fantastic shape here. So we're taking, you know, so the potential is all here, Robert, that you've got some great photos. It's just really about selecting what is the story, how can we, or what different stories are we going to take out of this. And I think you can, you only have to worry about the fact that it's going to run into the people if you already know that's there. Anybody else looking at that doesn't know that's there. So we've got to make the story out of the images we've got. And what we're also trying to do is use the best photos that we've got. And you want to go for ones which have a sense of shape and movement. And almost, I mean, what I loved about the original one, the cinematic version you sent in earlier in the year, was that kind of balletic quality to the young lad reaching out as he's sort of panicking as well. So to create the shape, to create the to create the sequence, I would say that you really kind of want to go down something like this, and then you end up with something I think more exceptional. These are all your photos, Robert. You've got the great set of photos, and I think there's an awful lot of potential with these. Oh no, not that one. That one, yes. So thank you very much for sending those ones in, Robert. I hope you found that useful, interesting. A bit of feedback. What have we got here? April says, oh, that's got character, Robert. Viji says, Robert, you rock. Susan says, they're all great images, Robert, but I really like the first ones a bit more. April says, have a great weekend. Oh, April's had Leggett. Okay, Robert says, this is why I watch your podcast every week for the last few years. You give invaluable feedback that helps me tell a story with my photography. It's always about the story and you have deep insight. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you, Robert. I'm glad you appreciate it. I appreciate you turning up each week. I appreciate the images you put in. And I really appreciate it. I think it's great that you do keep sticking images in for critique and feedback and what have you, because I mean, I'm delighted that it helps you. That's part of what this is about, but I think it also helps give insight to everybody else who's watching at the same time. So thank you. Right, okay, on to then Viji. And now where are we with Viji's images? Let me just, okay, I've closed that, so let's open that up again. So Viji was at a bird sanctuary and sent in this one, this series. So these photos were taken at a bird sanctuary near our house where my friend and I recently visited. While I hated to see the birds caged, however big they are, I still took photographs. It was interesting to see the interaction of the two birds taking their feed from a young girl's hand. So they were not afraid and quite friendly. I thought this would be a good fit for this to tell a story. So what we see here then is we've got the two birds, lovely looking, fantastic, colourful yellow birds, and so the young girl's got a hand with feed in it. And the first picture has the two birds upright, sitting on the hand, ready. One looks like they're about to go for it. The other one looks like they're being a lookout just to check nothing else is coming. Then image number 2, one of them's going for it, and then image number 3, they're both going for it. So we've got that sequence of both upright, one going, and then 2 going. And they're all taken pretty much from the same angle, same crop, and what have you. The only slight thing is they appear slightly, this one they're in the kind of lower half of the picture, this one they're kind of in the upper half of the picture, this one they're back into a sort of slightly more lower. So I would say maybe you adjust your crop slightly up or down to make sure that the birds themselves appear in the same part of the photo. I think that's an important part of the triptych idea, is that, so if you think back to Meg's photos right at the beginning with the flowers, 3 different flowers, but they're all taken and they occupy the same, pretty much the same space within each of the photos. But yeah, beautiful coloured birds, nice little fun sequence there. So yeah, thank you for sending those ones in, Viji. And then last one, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking about doing next week. Oh yeah, and of course I will also select my favourites. So where are we? Meg says that those look absolutely amazing, and Susan says such stunning birds. So next photos then, I'm going to take you on to our Anne. And Anne has done some quite incredible photos. Here it says, these were taken at a park here in North Dallas. So we have, here's picture 1, here's picture 2, and here's picture 3. So all near abstract shapes, strong black and white. And it's all about the shape. It's shot against a sky. So we've got, yeah, it's contrast and line and form. And Anne says, so Yes, they are sculptures framed against the sky and converted to black and white. I prepared them for a camera club slideshow, not a competition, hence the harsh contrast. The slideshow was set to industrial music to keep with the severe theme. Even though I wouldn't compete these images, I do quite like them. They mean something to me. A fun exercise in abstract photography. I think they work really well, Anne. And I do have to say, and again, in terms of the triptych idea here, they've got they're the same size, they are the same processing, they're the same style. So I think actually as a set they work really well. This black and white, harsh, industrial, high contrast, set against the sky. I think it's a really strong set of images, Anne. I really like them. And each image works well as an individual, but likewise I can imagine them being framed side by side, placed up, or just not even framed, I mean printed on think something like this without a frame, or frameless kind of image. Yeah, you want an image without a frame, I think, but having them side by side or above each other or whatever, I think would work particularly well as well. You could have a whole set of these, they could work. And that abstract element to them means it is all about, and then well, it's abstract and it's contrast. You've taken the contrast out so that there's not a lot in the way of depth to them. Little bits here where we can see a bit of light, which works nicely, and little bits, but for the most part it's hard so what it becomes really about is the line, and it's just these lines and forms and abstract, and I like them a lot, Anne. So yeah, thanks for sending those ones in. Really great set of photos. Susan says fabulous set, Anne, beautiful, and Anne says thank you to me and to Susan. Right, okay, so thank you then to absolutely everybody who sent in images for the challenge. So I hope everybody else watching has felt a little bit inspired, and maybe whether you've got some ideas of things you'd like to go out and try, or new ideas or ways you might do them slightly differently, the same picture, retry them. But it's this notion, and hopefully this is the bit I'm hoping to inspire you for, is the idea that moving beyond the idea of a single image, what happens when you put 3 or more images together? When you take 3 images and you put them as a set, you then have to have a mindset which thinks about how do they look together, and whether you're putting them into the same image as a triptych with a little border between them, or whether you have them as 3 separate images but you might hang them on the wall together. As a set, how do they look, and how do they interact with each other, and do they make sense together? Do they complement each other? Do they sing to each other? Do they enhance the other one by being there? And that's the real key. Each photo needs to enhance, make the story bigger than the isolated photo. So whether that's 3 different flowers, making it a bigger picture than a single flower, whether it's 3 different abstract shapes, making it bigger than a single abstract shape, whether it's a sequence of a train coming through the cut, or a fursuiter becoming their persona, their alter ego. These are all different ways of taking this idea of a 3 photo story, and I think it's brilliant. Everybody who's put something in, all bonus 10 points to each of you, Smug Points for each of you for doing so, and it's great. I'm really, I think it's great that you've done that. So what about what am I going to do for my top 3? Well, I think my first place, without doubt, has to go to Andy. On every level, this works as a triptych. The only thing I would say is as a web image, if you're putting this into a context, slightly less in the way of border, because back to that notion of real estate is limited online. Slightly less on the top and the bottom, maybe a slightly narrower gap in between. But that aside, I just think this is such a brilliant sequence, and I think it does everything that you want out of a 3 photo story. So congrats to Andy for it's a bonus 30 Smug Points to Andy for that. My second place, I think, actually is going to go to Anne. I really do love these high contrast, abstract industrial shapes. They work as a sequence, they work individually. It's a really nice set of really good images and thought in your composition. You do have a great sense of composition, Anne. I see it again and again with the images that you put in. You've got an eye there which works. So second place, bonus 20 points then to Anne for that. And my third one, I think I'm going to go to Nadia. Just the fun, outrageous colour, complete contrast, about as far removed from Anne's one as you can get, other than the fact that they're quite abstract shapes. Just the bright colourfulness of it. And I like the idea of the experimentation and the playing around with things like your iPad and black perspex and things like that. So, yeah, congratulations to Nadia. You get a bonus 10 points. And then I think a couple of commendeds. I think Meg's flowers. Meg will get a bonus 5 points for her 3 flowers, I think, and also a bonus 5 points to Marilyn for the train coming through the gap. So commendeds all round there as well. So thank you very much to everyone sent in the images. Congratulations to those who've got bonus points. And yes, I think that's that's kind of where we are. Thank you to, for sending in, for being part of the community and keeping involved with this. So I will now juggle around. I'm going to have to work out who's where on the Smug Points leaderboard. I will then update this later this afternoon, and in the Flickr group I will place the updated Smug Points leaderboard so you can all see where you are. If you just go through to the Flickr group, and I think it's the top thread at the moment, the Smug Points leaderboard, you can see where everybody's at. Now, as for, we've got one Sunday left for this month. I still haven't fully decided. Now, I've got half an idea. My leading idea at the moment is, a couple of weekends ago, I did a photo shoot at Chance's nightclub for the drag queen event. Some of you may remember a little while back, earlier in the year, I did a set of photos for a couple of drag queens in Dumfries, where we did a pub shoot and we did a balcony shoot. Well, they had a big drag queen event going on, and I had kind of access all areas photography, so behind the scenes, did some photo shoots in the stairwell, shots from the side of the stage and behind. So I'm kind of toying with the idea. That's my leading idea on that, so I may well go for that one. However, there's time for everything to change between now and next Sunday. Then we will be into July, and a new challenge, depending on who's at the top of the leaderboard gets to choose the next challenge, and we'll be on to the next topics. But don't forget, if you have any ideas, things you would like to see, topics, genres, anything you want that's photography related that you would like me to explore, to go into more detail for you, that's what these podcasts are for. Okay, these podcasts are for you. This is episode 246. We can go on pretty much indefinitely as long as you keep sending me ideas. If you send me ideas and I go, that's a good one. And if you've got an idea, if you think, oh, well, I'd like to know more about that, chances are everybody else would like to know a little bit more about it as well. Or even those who maybe kind of think they already know it might find something new as well. So it's a community, it's sharing. Send me your ideas. So kim@kimayres.co.uk, or put something into either the Flickr group or the Facebook group and get a debate going. See if you can always do that as well. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit like on all this. And and if you want to support these podcasts, then buymeacoffee.com/Kim Ayres is, of course, one of the ways you can do it. So thank you once again to everybody. I hope you found that lot interesting, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.